Hello, hey boomer listeners. Welcome to our show today. So my family, my parents are first generation Americans. I am sure that many of you have a family that goes back farther. You may even have family that goes back to the Mayflower when they first came to this continent, to North America. But have you thought about writing down the stories of your family? And I don't mean just a family tree or, hoping that by word of mouth, the stories get passed on, because a lot of things get lost in the memory and they're told differently, like that old game of telephone. And so our guest today is going to talk to us about writing down your family stories. And I've been doing this. I'm almost done with my book, which you'll learn more about as we go on. And it really is such an interesting exercise to think back about where it all started and how you have evolved and where you are now. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation with Naomi. And I think that you will enjoy this as well. I hope you all are looking forward to a Thanksgiving in whatever way and shape it comes to you. And while you're planning and enjoying your Thanksgiving meal, I hope that you will also think about New Year's, and let's put 2020 behind us and go ahead and get ready for 2021. You can sign up for our New Year's Eve virtual Hey Boomer party, which is going to include an amazing wine tasting, lots of fun with our friends in the community. And if you would like to sign up for that, you can find the link by emailing me at wendy@heyboomer.biz, and I will be happy to send you the invite and send you the wine samplers so that you can join us for the New Year's Eve celebration. I also know that you all understand how important a sense of community is to me. And Rob, I appreciate you being our first one to jump in here with a comment. Family stories are always fun to read and review. So thank you for that comment, Rob. And that is what I was about to say. Please join in through the conversation. We love having you be part of what we're talking about, to add your comments, to add your questions. Hi, Anne. And participate in this conversation. Or even just tell us, wow, that was really a good point. We like what you're saying. So right now, let me bring my guest on, Naomi Grossman. Hello, Naomi.
Hi, Wendy. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here.
It's so good to have you here. Let me tell them just a little bit about you before we get started with the program.
Sure.
Hi, Susan. So Naomi is a writer at heart. She got a BA in English, Literature, and Creative Writing from the Yeshiva University in Israel, and an MA in Media and Communications from Queens College in New York. She is also a caring advocate for seniors and has found that her life mission is to help those of us over 65 record our life stories for the next generation. Naomi Grossman is founder and CEO of Life Journeys Media. Her career has deep roots in marketing, feature writing, and blogging for the tech, real estate, and public service sectors, all of which led her to realize the power of story. Naomi started leading storytelling workshops for seniors and saw firsthand the transformative impact of sharing life stories. She published a do-it-yourself memoir workbook, and based upon feedback she got from that workbook, she's developed the digital platform that we're going to talk about today and launched the Life Story Challenge. Naomi is coming to us from Israel today. She is originally from the US. And I am so grateful for you to join us. I know it's late there, but thank you for being part of our show.
Not that late. My night is just beginning. and I think the second I open my mouth, all your listeners will know I'm originally from New York. So it doesn't take long for people to figure that out.
Yeah, that's not an Israeli accent.
No, it is not. I'm told that every day, multiple times.
Multiple times a day. So before we get started on the life journey story, tell us a little bit about yourself. I always like to give the audience a chance to get to know you. So can you give us a little bit of background?
Absolutely. And it was fun to hear. It's fun. You forget where you went to college, where you got your master's at a certain point in life. So it's fun to hear. But I think you put it really well. My career has really been about telling stories. And I started out, like you see, I grew up in New York. We lived in the Boston area for many, many years. And I started out as a journalist and actually worked in as a business journalist. But for me, the business journalism was all about the stories. I always wanted to know, how did you get here? What made you think of this company? How did you do it? What were your relationships with the employees? It was all about the story for me. And I saw that it was really about the story for our readers also. That's what people connected to. And it's interesting because you were asking me how I started this when I was in the Boston area, and I was actually working for the state of Massachusetts for an agency that was working with the stimulus program. I don't know if everyone remembers the Obama program back in, was it 07, 08? It's a while ago.
Yeah, probably 08.
The stimulus program.
Yeah.
And I started a campaign. Massachusetts got a lot of stimulus funds. We got about $8 billion, and we had our own agency. And I started a program on stimulus stories because everyone in the state thought of the stimulus program as construction projects that were annoying. They couldn't drive because they were construction projects. And so we started a program. We went around the state and got stimulus stories and ultimately launched the Faces of Economic Recovery. And cool. It was incredibly successful. The governor at the time, Deval Patrick, was really, really into it. He was amazing. He really connected to this concept of the stories. It's a little bit funny because originally I called it Faces of Recovery, not knowing that most Faces of Recovery was really, more like rehabilitation and alcohol rehabilitation. So changed it to Face of Economic Recovery. But I think that's what really started. I knew about the power of stories and sharing stories, but when I saw how people would just transform what they thought of the stimulus program when they heard the stories of the people who were able to go back to school, the teachers who kept their jobs, the construction workers who weren't laid off or who were hired for programs, and they were able to put food on their table or buy shoes for their kids. Those stories changed the way people saw this program. So it was around that time that I started doing life storytelling workshops for seniors. And you'll probably ask me, why seniors? Why did I start for seniors? And for some reason, I knew so many seniors, and I always wanted to hear stories. And I would say to them, tell me this story, tell me that story. And they'd say, no one wants to hear my stories. And I knew that wasn't true. And I'm sure you've had that experience also. And because everyone has a story, and those stories are so interesting. And so I started conducting these life storytelling workshops, and it was actually incredible. I saw, first of all, the power that sharing stories had first of all, on the seniors themselves. It renewed their sense of importance. They started remembering things they hadn't thought about in years. And they started seeing their life differently. They saw their life as a journey. Companies like Journeys Media, and that's no accident, because your life is a journey. It's not just a series of events. It's all a journey. It's a road. And they started seeing it that way. And what I also loved is that people started connecting to each other. When you know someone's life stories, you know them in a different way. You know who they were, and that's really who they are. And that was, I actually remember, this is kind of a Boston story, but once I was doing a workshop and we were talking about an historical event. Tell us about a historical event and how that impacted your life. And someone started talking about the Coconut Grove fire. I don't know if you know about that. It was in Boston in the early 40s. It was a nightclub, and many people were unfortunately killed. And everyone wrote their answers. It was kind of similar in structure to that's the basis for what we have now. And they started sharing. Someone started sharing their story about the Coconut Grove fire and how it impacted them. And suddenly the whole room was alive, and everyone was sharing their stories about how the Coconut Grove fire impacted them in so many different ways. Someone lost a parent, someone lost an uncle, someone's friends were there, and they all started talking and sharing. And there was just a power in that room. You know, everyone was connected. I was awed by it, and I just knew I had to do something more with this. So that's when I realized that people wanted to tell their stories. They needed to tell their stories. They needed to share their stories, but they didn't know how. You know, they would leave the workshop and they would say to me, I want to continue. I don't know how. One woman goes, I can't get past second grade. You know, like
my story.
Yeah. How do you do it? How do you write a life? And I realized that I had kind of was developing a life storytelling system with the workshops and the questions and the memory prompts. And I realized I could create a system that built upon each other, the questions, and then the questions led to the chapters, and each of the chapters were a different phase of life. So that's when I started developing. I started writing the workshop. That's what really started me on my journey.
So, and I love the way you told that story, because it is about connection. And that's one of the things that we're doing here on Hey Boomer, is building that connection between people and sharing our stories. So that was awesome. Very good connection there. So the first workbook that you developed, I understand, had like 12 chapters in it. Is that right?
Yeah. It actually had 26 chapters.
26 chapters.
It was very long. It was very, very long. And people really liked it. It was really a workbook. We published it in 2013. And my vision was someone would wake up in the morning with a cup of coffee, always with a cup of coffee. That was my vision. And they would answer a question a day. And then at the end of the year, we guided them through the story of their life. And at the end of the year, they had it completed. And people did it and they liked it. But as you can imagine, I'm kind of like thinking about your next question is they wanted lots of copies. You know, they wanted one copy. And they had to transcribe the whole book and then publish it as a book. It wasn't a fluid process. And I realized it needed to be.
And that was also a huge commitment to have 20, right? To be able to have to do it every single day. I think, many of us have such busy lives that we would fall off on that.
Exactly. You know, that's exactly right. And that's what I've learned, that it needs to be doable. And that was a lot of work. It was.
So you've taken it from that to the digital platform. I want to show a picture of what that first screen looks like, because I love the whole kind of throwback idea of how it looks, the nostalgic view of it.
That's exactly what we were going for. So I love that you say that, because we were really going for like a nostalgic feel.
Yeah, and so this is like the home page when you first enter the Life Journey Books story program. This is the first page, and then every single chapter through the book or through the platform is going to have that nostalgic feel. So I just wanted people to see that, Naomi, because I love how it looks.
I love that you appreciate that, because that's something that we were so conscious of, that we wanted it to be a nostalgic feel. We wanted it to feel this is a joyous process. You know, thinking about your life, thinking about your stories. It's fun. It's you know, it makes you feel good. It's great to remember these things. It's not heavy. It's not, I think I've said this to you, like kind of like, oh, you have to do this quickly now before it's too late. It's more like this is a process that you will enjoy. You know, you will enjoy remembering things. You'll enjoy sharing the stories. And that's what we were really going for.
Well, it has been fun. I mean, I have to say there are times that I've been really into it, you know, like I'll sit down on a rainy Saturday and I'm like, okay, here we go. And I'm going through it. And then there are other times like, I can't remember those times. I have to take a little time here. But it has been such an interesting guide to reflect back. But how did you, before everybody gets scared away and goes, oh my gosh, chapters, let's talk about what you did to make it more doable for everybody now.
That's great. That really is great. So as we were developing the digital platform, and there was a huge focus on user UX, I was going to say user experience, UX, you know, I have to use the lingo. Right. Because we really wanted to make it easy to use. That was the goal. Fun, easy to use, and affordable, which we'll get to. So I very quickly realized that it was too long. It wasn't doable. So I shortened it, and the Life Story Challenge, and I deliberately called it the Life Story Challenge, because take this challenge, do this, 6 chapters, 6 questions each. We still guide you through the story of your life, through each phase of your life, and you can do this. You can share your stories. You can create your life story book. Take the challenge, and you will enjoy it. And that's like, you will enjoy it. I'm saying you will enjoy it.
I love your enthusiasm, Naomi. We have a couple of questions. You will, and I have been enjoying it, and my mother as well. She's been
that's been the best.
But I want to, we've got a couple of questions coming in.
Great.
So let me ask you first. Somebody has said, do you provide audio versions of the person's story, or is it only available in book form?
Oh, I cannot believe who asked that. I feel like there are plans, but I promise you they're not. In response, and it's so interesting you asked me that, because this is specifically during Corona, the first 3 months of Corona, I opened the platform for free because it just felt like it wasn't the right time to be charging, and I wanted and there was so much isolation and loneliness for seniors, and I wanted them to be able to use the platform to connect, because it was online. You know, it's a digital platform, so people could call up and talk to the grandchildren, could call up their grandparents. They could get on, it's mobile friendly, get on their phone, ask their grandparent questions, and write their answers. Now, so many of my clients are so much smarter than me. So what they started doing is going on Zoom with their parents or grandparents, and they would just record their grandparents saying the answer, right? Because some people don't like to type or write it in. And as they started to doing that, and they were showing me that, and they said, can't you do an audio version just like this? So we actually have started, and anyone who's interested should reach out to me, because we are now piloting an audio version. And I actually just gave someone the first life story audio book, and it looks really, really nice. And it's interesting. It's some people want to do the audio, and some people really prefer to write it and create a book. What I would also offering is that if someone does the audio files but would like to also create a hardcover book, we can provide transcription. It's an additional cost, but I've managed to keep those costs down as well. And we can create the book also. But some people are happy they want the audio book. They want to be able to listen. There's something special about hearing someone's voice. I mean, I say that, and I'm sorry I'm giving too long an answer, but I really, really believe so many other companies do this. But what they do is they send a writer. either the writer calls to get the stories or they get the stories by email, and the writer creates the book. And it's usually pretty expensive. And I am a writer, and I know what happens when a writer writes your story. The writer writes it in their voice. That is just how it is. But I want these stories to be in your voice. It's your story. It should be in your voice. And either they can be writing it or they can be creating audio files, which is also wonderful. But I want it to be in it's your life story. It's your voice. You should be telling those stories.
Yeah. So that's nice. So right now the option that's available is the hardcover, but you are piloting the audio. I did put your email address up there, and we'll show it again at the end. So if people are interested in being part of that pilot, they can just email you.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
So here's another question for you. Seniors, we're talking about, 80, 90, some of these people are that are doing this on a digital platform. Now, you did talk about some doing it over Zoom, but there's got to be additional support for seniors because being on a digital platform is challenging. So how do you provide support for your platform?
Absolutely. It's such a great question. So I have a few, of course, me being me, I have a few answers to your one question. One is that we have, one of the ways when I built this company was I knew that if you're working with seniors, and this is only because for me also, technology is still a relatively new thing. We didn't grow up with it like our kids. There's still some fear. So we provide constant support. I'm available on phone, on email. Anyone can get in touch with us through the website. We provide constant support from small things to what's perceived as big things. And like I said, it's a very easy to use system, but we do provide support. The other thing is what we have seen. It's very interesting because one of the pilots that we did was at an assisted living facility in the Boston area. When I was traveling, I was still going back there when we were launching the product. A group of seniors did it with a local group of high school students. And this was at the very beginning. And I was a little bit skeptical about how it would work. It was really the assisted living facility who really encouraged us to try this. And it gave me so much, it was amazing to see actually, because we had 11 seniors and 11 high schoolers. And they got together and the seniors loved telling their stories to these high school kids. They connected with these high school kids. They formed relationships because, like I said, when you know someone's life story, you're connected to them. They're you know them. And they all finished and got their books and, of course, ordered extra books for their families. But I loved how they loved telling their stories. And I saw that this was another way to use the platform, is for a senior to do it either with some seniors have caregivers who come into their house and they have a lot of time kind of sitting around watching TV, with not so much activity, especially now. So we've been working with some home care agencies, encouraging their caregivers to do this with the seniors as an activity. And and besides the fact that it's enjoyable, the families love that seniors are doing this. And these are seniors who are a little bit older, let's say not as capable, but also they need to develop a relationship with this caregiver because they're spending a lot of time and the caregiver's meeting them at a certain point in their life and they don't know who they were. And when they start knowing who they were, which is who they are, they see them differently.
That's a great point.
And it's an amazing thing. And it's reducing turnover because the caregiver and the senior are connected. They know each other. You just, when you know someone's life story, you know them, you're connected to them. I can't say it enough. I mean, sharing stories is so powerful. And then the other way that people do this is I love when the families are involved. So even if there's a senior, I'm thinking of like your mom, who, let's say, is nervous to set up their account, get on the platform, so the family can set it up for them. and then encourage them along the way and give them support. They can like do it over Zoom. They can do it over the phone. They can do it visits when they're social distancing. I guess depending on where you are.
Right.
We're all about social distancing over here in Israel. Everything is about keeping 6 feet away. So that's another. So it's just I love when it's done where they're sharing the stories. The other thing is, because it's online, there is a feature in the platform, and I don't know if you were able to use this, called Share Your Story. And it's essentially so easy to use. They click on the button and a link pops up. And if you click on the email button, an email, a link of the story gets sent to anyone you want to send it to. So that is, and it's, again, very, very simple to do, easy. But when you hear, if you're writing your life story and someone calls you up and said, I just read your stories, I love it, keep going, that's all you need, right?
Okay.
You want to get feedback. So that's just another way.
Yeah. And you've been very helpful when my mother has had questions. You've been very helpful to her as well. So.
And they're all, she was, I anticipate so many of these questions, and I know how it is. I mean, look, when I first started on computers, I had moments of panic and, wait, what happened? What did I just do? What did I just press? And, I don't know anyone who worked, when you have the IT guy come and push a button and say, that's it.
Yeah.
So I don't do that. I'm not the IT guy, but where I know when support is needed.
Yeah. All right. So I got through the first 5 chapters, and then we get to the 6th chapter. And for me, that was the one that kind of, I had to step back and go, oh, wow, these are some pretty deep questions. So I am going to turn those questions back at you now and ask you a couple of the questions from that chapter. For instance, one of the questions was, what are you the most proud of in your life up until now?
I definitely deserve this, and I have to tell everyone that the chapter title is My Answers to Life's Big Questions.
Right.
So these are big questions, and I love that question. I really do. I'll admit it. But what I am most proud of, I mean, I think anyone who's listening knows I'm all about relationships, and I am just incredibly proud of my family, and how connected we all are, my kids, my husband, my parents, my siblings, and to friends. So I that's something that just gives me a real sense of pride. The other thing that I am proud of is building something in which I can help people. I really believe that it's empowering, and it's a gift to have someone be able to share their life story. So I just feel a lot of pride in that we built this and that we're helping people.
It is a gift, Naomi, and I am looking forward to giving this as a gift to my kids, because I think this is a legacy, part of your legacy that you leave for them. So thank you for doing this. All right, one more.
Shoot, which one?
What are the guiding principles that you stand for? Yeah,
that's a really intense one. Also, wow, you went right for the heavy hitters.
I did.
Yeah, you did. You put everything aside and went right for the heavy hitters. So the guiding principles. It's a really intense question. So I would have to say my faith, and being there for people who need me. I think that's been a very big guiding principle. And I think being happy, making an effort to be happy. And I know that sounds, almost silly, but I think if I believe that I can handle something, and I can handle it happily and with a smile, I think that's actually helped me a lot through life.
Yeah, and I think being happy is a decision that you make every day, and
Yeah.
it certainly comes through in who you are. So let me share a couple more comments that we've had.
Sure.
Somebody has asked, have you had the opportunity to do the Life Journeys Challenge with your own family members?
Oh, that's such a great question. So yes, the short answer is yes. My parents and my mother-in-law, my father-in-law unfortunately is no longer with us, are both elderly. My mother-in-law is 90, and when this launched fairly recently, so the last time we got to see her was last February when we were traveling, and we started doing it with her, and she was actually in the rehabilitation facility, and it was a hard place to be, and unfortunately it got harder with Corona when it got locked down. But it was really nice because I sat with her, and she was in a lot of pain, and I had opened up an account for her, and I started asking her questions, and all of a sudden she was this 9-year-old girl in France. And she was telling me about how she picked up French really easily. And she was saying, "Did you know I know French?" And I didn't. And she was just telling me all these incredible stories. And it was great. And I had to fly back, little not knowing that it would be so long. But thank God we have a lot of children and grandchildren in the family. And they all started doing it on their phones. They would open it on their phones with her, and they would call her, and it was a very, very hard time. But they would ask her, they'd say, "Let's do the Life Story Challenge." And they would ask her questions, and the stuff they found out was actually was pretty amazing. It was really incredible. So yeah, that's a great question.
That is a great question. Thank you for that. So let's see, we have another comment that says, this is so powerful. This woman's mother-in-law wrote a book of her family's life in the Air Force. She called it Carpets of Clover, an Air Force pilot's story from 1942 to 1970. And she just so appreciated her efforts. So now Doris wants to give the same gift to her family. And let's see, June.
My mother's name is Doris, so just so I'm connected.
Yeah. June says, "What's a good age to get started on this? Your enthusiasm reveals so much caring and love, a joy and reassuring that she will be there for you as you find any difficulty along the way." So what's a good age to get started on this?
Hi, June. That's such a great question. I would say anywhere from mid-60s all the way up. So getting started, really mid-60s, you have to be willing to put in a little. A lot of people are still working full time, and depending on where their life is at, I would say mid-60s, because often you have grown children and you want to start sharing those stories, and it's just fun, and you can do that. But mid-70s is and then anywhere up from that, mid-70s, mid-80s. And like I said, there's so many different ways to do it. Doing it on your own, doing it with a child, a grandchild, a caregiver, or some combination.
Yeah. I know when we started the book with my mom, and she and I were talking through the questions, I learned a lot just from that. And I thought I knew a lot of the family history already. So that was really great.
Oh, there's so much that you learn that's just incredible, because there's no way we get all the stories.
So I love the idea of doing the Life Story Challenge and creating this book as a gift. Do you want to show the book?
Oh,
Yes, please.
So, like I was telling Wendy before, this is one of our earlier books, but we started putting, if people want, a headshot of the person whose life story it is right in the middle there, because it's just a nice, and almost always it's an older kind of nostalgic picture. So it's really nice.
And inside you have pictures as well with the stories.
Here's the chapter. I'll show some pictures.
I don't know how well. There you go. There's some pictures.
There's some pictures.
So
yeah, it's really nice. It just people, I don't know, people just love it. Tell me, what can you say? It's like story.
Yeah. So tell me how people can get this. I mean, we are going into the holidays, and so it may be a busy time, but there also may be a quiet time because we are now more socially isolated. So it may be a good time to start doing some writing. How would people get started, and what would be the cost of this?
So the cost is $179 for the whole process and the book. Now, if people want to give it as a gift, they can either go into the site and click anywhere and send me a note, or they can click on pricing. There's a link to where you can pay, a direct link from the site, or they can send me an email and tell me that they want to give this as a gift. If they specifically want to give it as a gift, we send a nice email with tip sheets on how best to do this. But we want whoever you're giving a gift to know that this is a gift, a really incredibly meaningful gift.
So you're talking, so you're talking like if I wanted to buy a subscription to the Life Story Challenge as a gift.
Yes.
So I was talking like if I create the book and I want to give the book as a gift. So
got it. So then if you want to give if you want to give the gift, you tell us, we can mail it anywhere.
Okay.
So in other words, if you did the process and then you get the book, but you want to order 5 books and you want them sent to these different addresses, we're happy to do that.
Okay. So they would go to lifejourneysmedia.com, and that's where they can either go ahead and sign up.
Yes. So if you want to sign up for yourself or even for a parent, the first 2 chapters are completely free.
That's right. I forgot that.
Yes. So that's where it's interesting. And then you could do the gift after the first 2 chapters. You can see if this works out and how you do it. But all you do is click start here, and you're prompted, you create an account, and you can hit the ground running.
That's right. That's a great gift that you give people by giving the first 2 chapters free, so you can try it out. Love that.
Yeah, I really believe that once people start it, they don't want to stop. But you can try the first 2 chapters.
And then if you want to email Naomi directly, it would just be info@lifejourneysmedia.com, and you can ask her any questions. And
I as you can see, I love to talk. So pick up the phone, send me an email.
And in fact, you can pick up the phone because her phone number is a U.S. exchange that will get to her. So, all right. So a couple of people are ready to sign up and do this. That's awesome.
Great.
So Naomi, I always like to ask people at the end if there are a couple of takeaways they would like to leave for the Hey Boomer audience. What would you like to leave with us?
Oh wow, that's you have the best questions.
Oh, good.
You should be doing this with me.
I should.
You totally should. So one of the things that I want to tell the Hey Boomer audience is that sharing your life. I think we boomers, we're all very busy and we're all running, and we don't think we have time to do something like this. But I think when you start this process and you see how incredible it is, many boomers have their parents still that they're either taking care of or in touch with, and especially now with Corona, they might be kind of isolated from. So there are 2 things actually that I wanna say. One is that in reaching out and telling your parents you want them to share their stories is incredible. And when I say it's an incredible gift, not just, it's an incredible gift to them to let them know you want to hear their stories, but it's an incredible gift for you to know where you're from, what you're about, to know what are the basic principles that your parents thought of. I don't think we think of asking these questions.
Right.
And then when you do, I think you might find out stories that surprise you and find out ideas that you had never heard about. And the other thing is for boomers themselves, like you, Wendy, who did this. I think when you start this process, you realize what a journey your life has been, and you think of things that you haven't thought about in years, and it's incredible. You stories about yourself when you were a teen, and you start to look at your kids and say, oh, look at that, they're just like me, or about when your kids were little, things that you haven't thought of. So it's really a fun process for the boomers themselves also. So that, and the last thing I wanted to say, and I apologize, just want to jump in, is that the one thing I really saw with Corona, and I've been talking about this a lot with other people in my industry, is Corona did us this weird favor of highlighting how devastating social isolation and loneliness is for seniors. And I think that, and it's something that I've seen because I've been working with seniors for so many years, but I think everyone is starting to see what it means, how devastating, how it's almost like a physical illness to be lonely and isolated. And if you reach out to the seniors in your life and you're asking them to share their stories, you benefit, but you also, you really are helping to cure that social isolation. By them connecting, they feel so much less lonely. I think it's amazing how it can change the whole day.
Yeah,
for somebody.
True. One more question, Naomi. This comes from Susan. She says, how different is your book and program from the regular memories keepsake books often given as presents when a grandchild is born?
Oh, that's so interesting. That is so interesting. One is at one end and one is at the other.
Exactly.
That's such a great question. And I love that. So the difference is that we are guiding someone through the story of their life. So it's not keepsakes. It's stories. It's memories. I was saying we're not a Shutterfly book. We're not, even though those are wonderful and great.
Shutterfly,
books are great. Right. We're stories. We're stories of a person looking at their life and really seeing these stories, sometimes remembering these stories for the first time in years. So they're writing these stories and what it meant to them. There's so much more. And I love that. I love those keepsake books of newborns. But this is kind of like the other side, because and also they're writing their own story.
Right.
When we're writing these keepsakes books for children, we're interpreting how it was for them, but this is the person telling their story in their own words.
Yeah.
So that's a great question.
Good description there. Another question is, what is there a maximum number of pages for the book that one can create?
So it's a great question. So far, no one has gone. You can really, at this point, write as much as you want. I might regret saying that, and someone might make me rue those words. But right now, you can just keep writing and writing. And what I love about the platform is you write an answer, go to this next question, then you might say, oh, wait a second, I remembered something else. You can go back into your question. You can edit. You can change it. You can add. So that's a long way of saying you can write as much as you want.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, thanks for all of this. Your enthusiasm is infectious. I am so excited that you said you would come on the show with us today. So thank you.
This was great.
This was fun.
Great.
This was fun.
Yeah.
So next week, we're not having a show. We're taking a week off after the Thanksgiving holidays. But following that, on December 7th, my guest will be Carol Rosenstein, who you have been connected with, Naomi. And
she's wonderful.
She's wonderful. Carol has a program called Music Mends Minds, and it is about the power of music for people with dementia. And I mean, it will give you chills. It will have you in tears. It's just such an amazing program that she's doing. So
you can't miss that. No one can miss that. It's incredible.
It is incredible. So that's December 7th. And on December 3rd, I'm going to be a guest on a show. I'm going to be on something called Pause for Purpose. And if you want to sign up to hear me on that show, this is their website, My Future Purpose. And you come right down here to this button that says register. And you can go ahead and sign up for December 2nd on Wednesday to hear me on that show. So that should be, that should be fun. They're going to ask me those hard questions about what is your life purpose.
Turning the tables around.
I know, right? Okay, so I always like to end with a quote from C.S. Lewis, who said, "You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream." So keep joining us every week to dream new dreams, to come together as a community. I am so grateful for all of you. My name is Wendy Green, and this has been Hey Boomer.